This session is about how can we make Jewish traditions a part of our lives in an authentic way. And the first thing that I want to communicate so loudly and clearly is that this is your tradition. A lot of us, um, if we don't consider ourselves so religious or so participatory, may feel or not very learned in the tradition. We may feel like we are kind of on the outside, um, and that really we have to kind of take what is given to us, whether it's how Judaism is expressed by the rabbi or by more involved friends or family or community members, and um, and that uh, and that we either fit into it or resonate with it or we don't, and that just really isn't true. All of us who are part of the tribe have our lineage that come back all the way to the Mount Sinai and the Torah being given, and throughout all of Jewish history, our people have interpreted the tradition according to what is authentic for them in their generation, in their lives. And that has been, I think, a major part of why Judaism has survived all of this time. And so each one of us here in the year 2024 also are part of that stream. And so if Judaism is going to continue to be alive and relevant in meaningful ways, in ways that we can pass down to the next generation, we need to be able to interpret and live these traditions in ways that work for us. So, a helpful way to think about that is when it comes to certain Jewish traditions, whether it has to do with Shabbat or Passover or Hanukkah or any of the life cycle rituals, is the first thing to do is to learn about it. What is, where do we find it in the Torah? What is the rabbis, our Jewish traditions, basic idea of how to practice it? What are the rituals? Learn first what it is, and really that is called the peshat, the simple meaning of whatever the tradition is. We found it in the Torah. Its basic meaning is this. It's been expressed in this particular way, traditionally, classically. That's the peshat, the simple meaning. But what our rabbis teach is that the way that we understand Torah and Jewish tradition is multi-level. If we only stayed at the simple meaning, the peshat, we would be fundamentalists. We would do things only according to how we were told. But what Jewish tradition says is that the way to interpret Torah is to do it according to pardes. Now, pardes is a word that means orchard, and it also is an acronym. Each letter of pardes refers to a different level of Torah or Jewish tradition interpretation. So beyond the simple level, the peshat, the P sound, the pei in pardes, is remez, the R, par des. So the remez is the hint. So in the remez, we look at, well, what do we gain? What's kind of the essence of what the ritual is about? So if I'm talking about freedom and celebrating freedom for Passover, I know that the essence is about freedom, freedom of body, freedom of mind. That becomes the hint. But then the question is, well, how do I interpret that in a relevant way for myself? How do I see freedom show up in my life, inside me, outside me? And that is the third level of interpretation, the dalid or the pardes part, which is drash. Drash, as in midrash or as in drash, which means interpretation. And that's where we go ahead and make it relevant to ourselves. So, and after we have really had the pardes, the drash part of that, then the final level is sod, the pardes, the samech in the last word, which is means secret. And this is really something, the secret is, in this context, I'll say, is about how do we express the Jewish tradition in a way that is meaningful to us? And so we may come up with a particular tradition that's different than what has been prescribed by our rabbis. You know, maybe on Shabbat, we've noticed that essence of Shabbat in that we got in the drash and the interpretation is about feeling connected to creation. And maybe going to the beach or going to be out in nature is an essential part that we make, is essential part of how we feel connected to creation. So we might make as part of our tradition then going out to the beach or going out to nature on Shabbat. It doesn't necessarily fit with that observance that the rabbis might prescribe around not driving or um, traveling in that kind of way. But in our kind of reform conservative point of view, we can look at, say, is maybe the secret of Shabbat is for each of us personally, is found from being out in nature. So the tradition is each one of yours and it's mine. And the key in making traditions authentic is first to learn deeply about what it is, where it's located in Torah, what's its essence, how do we interpret that for our own life, and then how do we create or participate in a tradition that is able to express that meaning in a way that's authentic.